Hey all, welcome to the podcast of course, they make me crazy. I'm April, and normally I am accompanied by my little sis Amanda, but she's not going to be on today. We got family in town, so she lives in Ohio, so she's got family in town, and she's not able to jump on with me, so I'm flying solo today, and it's my very first, of course, they make me crazy podcast on YouTube. Yeah, I finally decided to get with everybody else in the country and bring the podcast onto YouTube. So thank you so much for joining me for the very first episode on that. And if you've been listening on audio, Google Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're probably on there. Thank you for joining. Okay, so I want to touch on Kanye West and Kim Kardashian situation. No, not the situation of him running for president, which is crazy as shit, by the way. Now, you might not agree with me, and if you don't, then you should be on this podcast talking about that. No, but we all have our opinions. No, this podcast is, about those of us living with people suffering from a mental illness. Okay, so it's about an escape from your life, or it's about more so a connection with people who are also dealing with situations like Kim is this week, okay? And it's also just about crazy family stories too. But I want to touch on this. So obviously, Kanye has been going way off the deep end, having unusual behavior, even for himself. And, many of us are sitting back thinking, bellies get all tight and feeling, and our shoulders creep up to our ears, and we're thinking, really, dude? I mean, honestly. And it's sad for me to see. It's really sad for me to see. And, I hope that if you know what Kim is dealing with, it's probably sad for you too. I'm sure you're probably feeling the same kind of like stress and thinking, shoot. And the reason I say that is because I know the pain that he's causing his family. I know it. And it's a pain that is not easily talked about. And so, last week, Kim came out with a statement, a lengthy statement on social media, and I'm just going to read it. So I'm going to look away from the camera for just a second. But, she was asking for compassion and empathy for her family and touching on her husband's mental health issues and his health issues, including bipolar. And if you've lived with someone, or you're still living with someone who suffers from bipolar, drug addiction, just really anything similar to that, any kind of other mental illness, then you know the pain that he's just causing too. And when this happens, they just go off the deep end. And this happens when they're not taking their medication correctly, when they're taking too much of it, when they're taking or not taking it at all, and they think that they can handle what's actually going inside, what's going on inside of them, and then come to find out they can't, and it's everybody else's fault except for theirs. And the family members and the loved ones are the ones that kind of have to pick up that piece until they snap back into reality and realize how much harm they're causing. And listen, I don't want to say this for somebody who suffers from bipolar, and I don't want to upset you and offend you and say you don't know what's going on in our lives, because you are absolutely right. I don't know what goes on. I just know that there's a lot of turmoil that goes on for everybody. And if I could stop it somehow or another, I certainly would. I certainly would, because it has absolutely crushed my family. And so I want to continue with another statement that Kim said. She said, his condition does not diminish or invalidate his dreams and his creative ideas. no matter how big or unattainable they may feel to some. This is part of his genius, and we have all witnessed many of his dreams have come true. She's absolutely right, and that's how we know about him, right? Otherwise, we probably wouldn't. And she goes on to say that we as a society talk about giving grace to those, to the issue on mental health as a whole. However, we should also give it to the individuals who are living with it in times when they need it most. And she is absolutely 100% right. And in a different statement, this is the statement that really got my heart. She said, I have never spoken publicly about how this has affected us at home because I am very protective of our children and Kanye's right to privacy when it comes to his health. Now, I am just like, I almost dropped to my knees and cried when she said that, because I was like, you know, that is exactly what a lot of us do. Okay, y'all, so they have all the money in the world. We know that, right? But for regular people like myself, like you, we don't have all the money in the world. And we don't have friends in high places. And it's even, I think, sometimes harder for us because we go to church, we hang out with friends, and we don't want to diminish what people think about them, right? And we don't want to tell or feel like we're airing our dirty laundry when we're talking about a loved one of ours that we live with every single day who may go off the deep end. We should talk about it. We should tell them that, but we don't. You know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, like, some of us are just too embarrassed to say anything. Even to our close friends, some of us are embarrassed to say anything. And it's just, so and we don't want to make things worse. And she's just like the rest of us. She might be sitting in a multi-million-dollar house with several cars and the world at her hands, but she is just like us when it comes to dealing with this situation. And none of us just want to talk about it. And another reason we don't want to talk about it is, one, it's embarrassing. And another reason is we don't want to cause any more turmoil in our loved ones' lives either, right? We don't want them to hear us talking about their situation to somebody. I mean, imagine walking in or being on the phone with a friend and your loved one walks in and they hear you talking about them. Could you, I mean, we don't want that to happen, right? Because they're suffering from mental anguish, so much so that we don't want to cause them anymore. And we don't want to cause them to go off the deep end. And we know that we could cause a huge storm in the house. And it could be an all night, couple of days, a week storm. And so what do? We hold it in, pretend everything is okay. And it's not okay. And that's why, and listen, I lived with it for so long. Many of you already know that, I grew up with a mother who suffered from bipolar, which is why I started this podcast. And God, that woman, she could have some episodes. And one other thing Kim said that struck me, and I don't have this one verbatim, but she said, our hands are tied in what we can do for Kanye. And she is 100 absolutely right. 100% rather. Absolutely right. You can't unless they are threatening to someone or to themselves. So like one night, my mom, I love her so much, but oh, man, she could get us. So she just wandered out one night in the middle of the street, and you might have heard me talk about this already on another episode because I can't remember all the antic stories that I've talked about my mom or not. But so she wandered out in the middle of the street, took too many meds, only wearing a nightgown, nothing else, and wandered out in the streets of Sandusky, Ohio. You're probably thinking, where the hell is Sandusky, Ohio? Well, it's like 45 minutes west of, I don't know, around Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. But what makes it popular is it has Cedar Point amusement park, which I think is one of the world's largest amusement parks in the world. So this was summertime, and it's not a terrible little city. I mean, it's not dangerous, but it can get pretty dicey in the middle of the night when my mom was going out there because there are cars that cruise all night. So I mean, like you'll see the same cars just cruising, and they're you know what they're looking for. They're looking for like drugs. They're looking for a party, and mom just happened to be, you know, wandering in the gist of some of it. Okay, and so she was having her party of one. La la land, you know, overtook her meds and she just wandered out the door. The police found her, thankfully, called us and whoop, I forgot to turn off my phone. Called us and it was just an alert from CNN. Nobody important. But called us and said, you know, hey, got her here, you know, brought her back home and all that good stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that, well, she could have been really hurt, but we could never really get her, I don't like this word, like institutionalized, I guess. And there really came a time where she needed to be. There was one time. So one time she was addicted to, not one time, she's pretty much been addicted to Xanax for the majority of her life, but she was addicted to Xanax and her doctor wanted to wean her off of it because he wanted to try another treatment. And this was early on. So I was like, oh God, I'm gonna go in mid-40s now. So I was literally, I think, a freshman, brand spanking new freshman in high school. And he wanted to try a different treatment. So Amanda was just a little spud at the time. And so she was probably like 5 years old. So I think my mom decided this doctor wanted to put her into a facility, and I think my mom probably decided, okay, I'm going to give it a try. You know, I have 3 kids. I have an amazing husband who loves me. I especially have a little girl who is Amanda, and she probably said, I'll try it. Then we get her there, and she accuses everybody of sending her to the funny farm. Okay, and it kind of was a funny farm. I mean, there was a lot of weirdness in there, and but he wanted to do that so he could try a different treatment. Well, that didn't go down. Total epic fail. He tried the treatment, but then ended up putting her back on that damn Xanax again. And then she got onto Klonopin, I think. So somehow or another, but mom's been addicted to Xanax and Klonopin, and if you've heard the other podcast, she's been addicted to some other things. There were 2 other times we were able to get her into a facility for 3 days. And it was because she threatened to harm herself both times. And literally, I think it wasn't 3 days for one of them. I think she got out like a day early because there were no beds. There were no beds to hold as many people as they had. And literally, she came out, 2 middle fingers like swaying. She's like, try it again, 3 times the charge. It ain't happening with me. You know, so you can't force anyone to get help if they don't want it. And, you know, I'm not saying that that's what we should be doing. I'm just saying that I think Kim felt that she was being questioned about how they're handling the Kanye situation. And you already know, if you've been dealing with this, how hard it is. And if you don't, then now you do, right? Now you do. So she said, hold on, there was something. When she said, we also have to give grace to those of us who love and live with those people, I think she's right. It's not easy, but we need to give love and grace to people like us. No, she said, I want to give love and grace to the people who are suffering from the mental illness. Okay, hello. Full day of work, getting a little tired. But I think we need to give love and grace to us, to more of us. And I want to build a community with you. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your stories because I find them fascinating. There is an episode, it's from 2 weeks ago, with my girlfriend Tracy. She tells a story about her bipolar grandmother and what she experienced living with her, and the ups and the downs, and how she coped with it, how she deals with it still today. And I would love for you to go and listen to that. But also, I'm going to wrap this up. I reached out to the National Alliance of Mental Illness to see if they would talk to me about this topic. And instead of giving me someone to talk to, because they said they didn't have anyone, they said that they didn't say, they sent me a statement. I'm going to read it to you. It says, thanks for reaching out to National Alliance of Mental Illness. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone available for an interview, blah, blah, blah. But, quote, being the loved one of a person with mental illness can be extremely challenging. Oh, hell yeah, it can. On top of dealing with a complex health condition, they often face judgment, shame, and discrimination. We commend Kim Kardashian for her openness about the complexity and difficulty of her position and of the many, many more like her. Hallelujah. We at NAMI support her during this trying time and encourage those in her and her family situation to seek support for themselves and their loved ones. And then they included, because I was like, okay, yeah, but what? So they included a program that they do called NAMI Family to Family. It's a course. And then they ended it by saying, you're not alone. So I was like, okay, let me check this out. So I popped on and I listened to the video. I clicked the link, and there were people on there talking about the Family to Family course. And I had not heard of this before. I wish I kind of had earlier on, but there were people on there saying, I didn't know how to handle their psychotic episodes until I joined this course. And they said how scary it was, and how the organization really helped them. So I'm going to put the link that I watched into the notes, and that could possibly be a source for you to touch on. And you guys, looking back, because my mom passed away 3 years ago, so she's no longer here, but looking back, I wish I would have gotten help more, when it came to dealing with her. And I think I could have given her more grace when I was dealing with it. And my father, my stepfather, who, he's been with us since I've been 7, he is like the grace giver. I mean, that man, he just suffered so much, and I wish that he would have had some more of like a course to go to. And it's not too late, gosh, and two, you can always reach out to me. Of course, they make me crazy at gmail.com. Pop on our Instagram page. I have a phone number there. You can call. Would love to talk with you. Okay. I'm easily accessible. But now, if you're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go on NAMI's website and da-da-da. So that's okay. We have Dr. Casey Del Mara, the founder of the Mental Health Hacker. If you have been listening to our podcast, then she's been on a couple of times. She's going to be joining us next week. She's going to be joining us to talk about how to maneuver, coping skills of maneuvering through their highs and their lows, and really just giving us some pointers into how to live with someone suffering from a mental illness. So I really hope that you join us next week for that. Again, I'll put that link to NAMI in the notes, and you can always contact me. I hope that you share this with your friends. I hope that you subscribe and that you like. And more importantly, I hope that you give me some feedback, because I would love to know what you would like to hear about. And just any kind of feedback would be appreciated. All right, folks. See you next week. Thanks so much.